Imagine you live in an indigenous community of a small country in Central America. The tropical forest surrounds your village, while one road connects it to the town 1 hour far by bus. Now imagine you are a father of 4 kids. Your wife keeps the wooden house and looks after the chickens in the backyard. You are a subsistence farmer and need to walk every morning almost 1 hour through the forest before reaching your small fields. Every year you set fire to your fallow in the dry season so that the ash will fertilize it. You burn the young forest that grew up in the last years when you weren't working on that. And it's there that you will plant corn and harvest it 3 months later before the rainy season starts. This is what your father taught you, and this is what you plan to teach your sons. But the dry season has been even longer, drier and warmer in the last years, and fire is getting more and more aggressive. Now these are the conditions that many farmers I talked to during the fieldwork of my research in Belize expressed me. So they are Maya people who are practicing traditional farming. They are what is also called doing slash and burn. So they are using fire and as a tradition, and this is something actually quite popular in Central America. It's not only in Central America, but in the tropics, let's say. The thing is that what these farmers are facing is climate change, climate patterns that are changing, that are different from the ones when this tradition was developed. So the challenge for a tradition is how to keep adapting in a context that is actually changing, and how, those who are performing it manage to adapt it. But in this way it seems unsustainable, not only for the production, because fire might run out of control quite quickly, burning the harvest of the next, for example, field, and consuming maybe the soil through the years, but also for the forest surrounding it, because fire gets wild quite quickly and destroys the forest around, but it can destroy also the house around and also the farmer who set the fire. So that's why it's quite unsustainable. Farmers are, in this example, moving towards what is called agroforestry. So taking some traditions as an inspirations from traditions, but also from more science and scientific innovations. They are trying to merge agriculture and forest on the same land, so that the ones are giving benefits to the others and vice versa, in mutual positive interactions. Now this is an example of agriculture, traditional agriculture in the tropics, but we can see the same actually also in Europe, in Italy, even in Südtirol, and that's something that we might consider to assess. To what extent can traditions be sustainable? Sustainable for the environment, sustainable for production, for people's life. Because, for instance, a farming tradition that is less mechanized, with less chemical inputs, might be more sustainable than what is actually common practice nowadays. So it's interesting to assess sustainability, because in this way we can see how traditions might be more sustainable sometimes. Traditions might therefore be part of the problem, but also part of the solutions of environmental issues. A fire that burns and emits pollution into the atmosphere, while on the other hand, agroforestry is helping deforestation to decrease. So we see this example, and we see this in the environment, in the agricultural sector, but we can see the same also in many other sectors. Anywhere we can find traditions. What about traditional medicine, the rhino horn or the tiger bones that are quite popular in Southeast Asia? Or what about cooking, traditional cooking? What about considering this not only at a national or macro level, let's say, but more on a local, on a community, on an individual level? How my traditions are sustainable, to what extent? My traditions are actually my habits, what I usually do. So in this way, we can think that we can challenge actually our own choices, what we usually choose just because we have always done in this way or we like in this way. But to what extent is it my diet sustainable? To what extent is it my transportation, my overall consumption, what I typically consume, what I traditionally do? So these are habits. Now, traditions, we are seeing, can actually be part of the solution for environmental issues. And it's interesting to see how traditions can fit in what is called sustainable development. To what extent can traditions help development to be more sustainable? This is a fuzzy concept because sustainability is a fuzzy concept. Also, just sustainable development is quite difficult to define, or better, there are many definitions for that. But the maybe most common one is coming from the Brundtland's report. Sustainable development is development that meets the needs of present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So basically, it's referring to an exploitation, a use of natural resources, of nature, from the present generation in a way that will not prevent future generations to benefit in the same measure we are doing nowadays. So, now, this sounds quite as an aim. We have now also what is called Sustainable Development Goals, framed by United Nations. But still, these are goals, aim. That is not still so clear what kind of implementation do we need to reach them, or better, what is the more sustainable way to reach them? Well, we are actually seeing that development has also many meanings. It's quite also difficult to define. Something that actually we are intentionally or unintentionally following is to split countries into developing and industrialized countries, or developed countries, as if industrialization would mean development, and is what developing countries or the development itself is striving for. Is it so? Is it this the neoliberal, maybe oriented development, the most sustainable form of development? Are we also considering human safety, security, social justice, human dignity, for instance? To what extent can these values make development more sustainable? And what is the role that traditions can play for this? We have, of course, many questions that are answered with other questions. But what is getting clear is that traditions may have a double role. They can be part of the solution and of the problem of environmental issues. They can play this role in any sectors at different levels, from national to individual level, with the habits. And sustainable development is an interesting concept, where even more interesting personally is to understand how traditions can play a positive role for sustainability. And this is something that actually farmers in Central America might wonder what is the development that they are following, what is most sustainable for them, and how can their traditions eventually adapt, or how can they reframe them in a way that is more sustainable for changing conditions. And finally, thinking sustainably is not just a list of things to do or not to do, sustainable or unsustainable, even with traditions. But it's more also to get a responsibility feeling, a responsibility that of the consequences, for the consequences deriving from what we choose to act, to do, let's say. So getting responsible for not only myself, not only the others, but also for the future, those who will come, and for nature around. And not only around, actually, because it's everything interconnected. So it's not only individual, it's not only flat, but it's multi-level, and it's not anthropocentric, but is meeting the needs of people and nature. So now a question for you. How much sustainable do you think that your traditions are?